Now, unless you've been living under a rock, and if you have, I don't blame you given the state of our housing market. Anyway, you've probably encountered the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard defamation trial in some way, from the poop in the bed to the mega pints and the cast of characters and friends that we've met along the way. Now, if you're a Canadian like me, you might be asking yourself, why don't we get quality entertainment like this in Canada? Why aren't trials recorded and broadcasted like this in Canada? On the other hand, you've probably seen those hand-drawn sketches of court proceedings on the news because that's about as close as you get to the action. Of course, I'm being facetious about trials being purely for entertainment. Obviously, for the people involved, there could be a lot of money at stake, careers, reputations, and in criminal cases, someone's freedom on the line and justice for the victims. But there's undoubtedly something captivating about watching trials, as millions of people have literally been watching this case unfold every day. So yeah, what's the deal with this lack of trials being broadcasted in Canada? Well, what makes this so weird is that basically wherever you are in Canada, you can literally go to your city's courthouse and pop in and watch any of the trials taking place there, despite having no personal interest in the matter or relationship to the people involved. And of course, in cases that deal with sensitive matters like the abuse of children, judges can make orders to restrict publication and access. But for the most part, you can watch any trial you want. And a major reason that we have this open court principle is because in a democratic system, we don't only want justice to be done, we also want justice to be seen to be done. And we want people seeing justice be done because that is how we get the public to have confidence in the justice system. I talk in depth about this idea of the appearance of justice in my video about a Canadian judge allegedly residing over cases whilst vacationing in the Caribbean. And what further makes this lack of broadcasting trials even more bizarre is that in the past 2 years, the court systems have had to adapt to a remote first world and move to largely conducting proceedings by Zoom. And so with trials already being conducted digitally, there's not even a logistical or technical impediment to capturing what's going on in courtrooms in most of Canada. If the details for trials via Zoom were made public, you could in theory join the room and watch any of them you wanted, just like you could pop into your local courthouse before. Now, technically there are some legal proceedings that you can go watch right now in Canada from anywhere you want. For example, the cases that the Supreme Court of Canada hears are recorded and available online. But for the average person, these hearings are not really compelling. When a case reaches all the way to the Supreme Court, the appeal will typically be based around interpretations of law that are often highly complex and technical. By contrast, what makes trials like the Depp Heard one so interesting is that they are not just based on arguments about the interpretation of law, but they importantly involve the finding of fact. The judge or jury in a trial is given the task of making findings of fact. They have to determine what are the facts in this dispute, which is another way of saying getting to the truth of the matter, at least in the legal context. And this search for truth is, I think, what makes trials like this case so compelling. Watching different pieces of evidence, whether they be photos, audio recordings, and of course the testimony of witnesses, being put before the court as both sides try to assert that their version of events is the truth. And then as a viewer, as a member of the public, making your own assessments about the truth, irrespective of what the law will dictate about it. Okay, so to recap, in Canada we have an open court principle as part of our justice system, and now we have cameras and live stream equipment in many courtrooms. So what's the holdup? Well, as it stands, it's simply the laws and policies of the courts in Canada. For example, the Courts of Justice Act in Ontario or Practice Direction 48 in British Columbia. They have rules that do not allow for the video recording of court hearings, and often this means not even photographs, which is why you see those hand-drawn sketches of courtrooms on the news. Now, I will admit that having court proceedings being recorded and broadcast is not without its problems. For example, a lot of times witnesses are highly concerned about their privacy and safety when they give testimony in a case. But if these proceedings were available to be viewed by everyone online, that could potentially disincentivize and inhibit witnesses from getting involved or speaking freely and openly. And that's because people would be afraid of being criticized, insulted, and even doxxed, because anything is possible on social media these days. On the other hand, it could give others who are perhaps opportunistic a chance to get their 15 minutes of fame as a witness in a high-profile case, as Ms. Heard's lawyer Elaine argued several times in this case. But I think what this Depp Heard case made very clear is the educational value of having legal proceedings being broadcasted. Many members of the public do not have experience with the legal system, and they are exposed for the first time to it in these sort of cases. Objections, hearsay, why is Johnny not allowed to answer? Who is the jury? Why don't we get to see them? Why does Amber keep looking at them? What is a witness allowed to say on the stand? What happens if they lie? What's the role of the judge if there's a jury in a case? Why do they both have so many lawyers, and what are their respective roles? What's the relationship between Johnny and his lawyers and Amber and her lawyers? What makes a good lawyer? What type of lawyer should I find? These are just some of the different questions and ideas that people who were following this trial interacted with and explored. And importantly, it will give them some sort of basic understanding about how the legal system and legal proceedings will be like if or when they are a plaintiff or defendant in a case, or a witness or a jury member. I think as the highly traditional legal system continues to adapt and incorporate more of the technology and cultural norms that we are used to into the courts, we're going to see more courts in Canada exercise their discretion and allow for trials and court proceedings to be recorded and broadcast online. Now, will these cases rise to the viewership and public interest of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case? Probably not. This had a particular backstory to it that made it unique, but there will be some cases that are highly charged and where the public will want to see the administration of justice being done from the comfort of their phone or computer.